Okay, so our final stage in the whole process is going to be, not our final stage, but our next stage, beyond the action analysis part of it and doing our little sketches, just little tiny stick figure sketches, is to go into the thumbnail stage, which we haven't done up until this point. This is the new phase that we're introducing into our overall process of how we animate our scenes. The thumbnail stage is an optional stage. I use it rarely. It just depends on the type of project that I'm working on and whether or not I really have to analyze what's taking place within the scene, and it's fairly complicated. Then I would go to a thumbnail stage. If it's not that complicated, then I'll just go in and, if I see it all in my head, I'll just go straight into my key animation. But it's totally up to you, all right? I'll leave it up to your option as to which way you want to go. My suggestion is, on this one, thumbnail it through, all right? So use the drawings that you've just done out at the staircase with your buddy who's posing for you. Use those as your thumbnail sketches. So one of the things that you can do is you can take your layout here, and if you scan it in to your computer and throw it into Photoshop, you can make little miniature versions, set up an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and have maybe 2 or 3 across the page this way, and do like 4 or 5 lines of it. And use each of those as a thumbnail sketch, and you draw your character into that position on the stairs. And that way you don't have to redraw the stairs over and over and over again. Right? So do something like that, and then plan out what your character is going to be doing in the minutest detail. Okay, not like you have to do in-betweens. We're looking for keys, maybe breakdowns, primary keys, secondary keys, and some breakdowns in there, so that you know exactly what's going to take place. The problem with this assignment now is that it is no longer a 16 drawing assignment. If we're going to be going to 12 sheets of paper, and each sheet is essentially 1 second long, and we're looking at 13 to maybe 15 seconds worth of animation, we're talking about 12 drawings per second. So for 10 seconds, we have 120 drawings. For 15 seconds, we have to add on 60, which is 180 drawings all total. Now, not all of that is animated because we're doing the animated hold. So you might have your character go into an animated hold at the beginning for 1 second, which you do, at the end for 1 second, so there's 2 seconds there, and for whatever amount of time you have them holding at the top, once you get into that key pose, it's going to express the emotion that they're feeling or the thought process that they're having at the top. That might be for 2 or 3 seconds. So if your overall piece is 15 seconds, you got 2 or 3 seconds at the top, 1 second at the beginning, 1 second at the end. That's 5 seconds taken away from your overall time. So now you're down to 10 seconds. Right. So realistically speaking, based on the history of this assignment, we're talking about 120 drawings, plus the 3, 3, 3, 129, 130 drawings total for this assignment. Now, the main thing that I want you to be doing on this, and the key to all the animation that you're going to be doing from this point on, for the rest of your lives essentially, is we're moving from a transitional point of view where we're no longer dealing with the basic principles, although we are going to still be dealing with basic principles, but we're not dealing with them in a basic way. We're now applying it to actual character animation. And so this is a brand new phase for you. We sort of introduced it a little bit with the walk cycle, the run cycle, the crazy walk. But now we're actually into who is this character and why are they going up the stairs? What's the reason for them to go up the stairs? What's their purpose in doing this? And what do they feel as they're doing this action? So now we have a little bit more of a larger scheme within our animation project. And so I need you to take more time to start to think about this stuff. Okay, so thinking is your first stage. Okay, and you probably already started doing that as I've been describing what's been going on. We did the action analysis, and I told you what you can do, what you can't do, and you're all going, oh, I wanted to do that, but you can't. So now you have to sort of limit it down to what am I actually going to do? And some of you process that through and said, I think I know what I'm going to do. So now what you need to do is you need to settle in and start to really process it through your brain and play it over and over and over again. It's a little mental movie that you're going to make for yourself, so that you actually see your character in your brain doing what you want them to do. And you play it over and over and over again to the point where you memorized it and you know exactly what's going to happen. Now, this may take place before you do your thumbnails, or it may take place during your thumbnails, and it even might take place after you've done your thumbnails. You may be doing your searching process as you're doing your thumbnail drawing. As you've got someone acting it out, you may decide, hey, you know what? Why don't you try doing this instead? Change that action to this. Or I really like what you did. It may have been a mistake, but I like what you just did with your one leg. Can you replicate that? And they're going, what the heck are you talking about? So they have to try and remember what it is, and you might have to direct them as to what you want them to do. So you've now thought through the whole process of how you want your character to start working. You've thumbnailed the whole thing out. Now you have to sit down and start working. But in the time that it's taking me to describe that, maybe it's been 3 or 4 minutes, seconds, minutes, the actual process of going through doing that is going to be a lot of minutes. Okay, doing your thumbnail sketches, you're going to have maybe 1 minute per sketch, and overall in this entire project, you're probably going to have somewhere in the realm of maybe 30 to 40 key drawings. So that's 30 to 40 minutes of drawing, just your thumbnails, and that's it. And that doesn't count your thought process before. Okay, so just getting to the stage of completing your thumbnails could be a 2 to 3 hour process over perhaps 2 days. You might just want to spend a day just thinking it through, running it through your mind, and playing it mentally in your head. And then you find someone who's going to act it out for you, and then you do your thumbnails. So this could be 2 or 3 days later. So what we're getting into now is an entire planning process where it's not confined to an assignment where you can knock this off within 20 minutes, like our perpetual ball bounce of 12 drawings. Remember that? Okay. If you think back now to that assignment, which was not that long ago, it's only, what, 5 months ago? Okay, remember that very first assignment? Remember how you struggled over that? And you were like, I can't draw a ball. And they all look like loaves of bread and footballs and really weird shaped potatoes. Okay? And you struggled with that, and you had to redraw it and redraw it. Well, that was just your introduction to animation, the very first stage. Now we're progressing above and beyond that. We now know all that stuff. Even the flipping process. You guys are all pros at flipping now, right? You remember the very first day when I introduced you? I said I was going to bring this up later on. What is this? You remember it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we progressed beyond that point now. Now we're into a new phase where something that we're going to do is going to take an extended period of time. So because this project is 10 seconds long at the minimum, we're probably talking maybe 15 to 20 hours of drawing overall. Okay, maybe slightly more. And I'm going to give you that time, okay, but I don't want you to hang yourself at the time. We're lucky because we've got the break week coming up. So you've got this week, you've got next week where there is no classes, and then when we come back, that's when you're going to present me with just your keys and breakdowns. Okay? And I also want to see any thumbnails that you've got. The whole thing has to be timed out, so remember before I told you from this point on, I want to see everything keyed and timed. If you don't have it keyed or timed and all your drawings are there, I'm not going to look at it, because then I can't give you any proper feedback. So you've got to time the whole thing out. Right. So once we get to that point, you're then pretty much locked in without, any major adjustments that you might have to do your timing or your acting, unless I look at it and go, ugh, that's horrible, you have to scrap it and start all over again. Then you're pretty much set to just in-betweens from that point on. So if you've got roughly about 40 to 45 keys out of 120 drawings, it means you've got approximately 80 drawings left to do as in-betweens. So you should be able to rip through those fairly easily. And again, you have to determine your own personal timing on this stuff. How long does it take you to do an in-between? Okay, in-betweens usually take a little bit longer than keys because you're being more precise with it. So you have to sort of budget. Does a key drawing take me 5 minutes and an in-between takes me 7 minutes? So then you do your math. 40 drawings taking 7 minutes a piece works out to 280 seconds, or 200 seconds, I keep wanting to say a second. If only it was that simple. 280 minutes. Whereas if you're going with the larger number of drawings, or more drawings, the 80 drawings, and it's going to take you longer, you have to multiply that out. Now we get into the budgeting of your time. Okay? So you're going to have this week, break week, next week, show me your keys, and then you've got the final week to finish it up. All right?
Yep.
So block your time out properly, plan it out as best you can, quickly, and get right into it. Because the longer you leave it, the less time you're going to have, and you're going to start to scramble. And this is one of the big assignments that people always start to stumble on, especially at the very end. You don't know how many times I've seen in the past, students will have characters going up the stairs, slight pause at the top, anticipate, jump up in the air, and then keys for the rest of it, and no recovery at the tail end. So you remember before I said, I don't know why people don't put a recovery. It's because they run out of time, and you can't do that. Okay, so budget your time properly, make sure that you've got the whole thing planned out properly, and make sure that I can see that there is an emotional or physical thought process and context to how and why the character is doing what they're doing. Otherwise, it's not going to sell. And your audience won't be able to see what's going on and why is the character doing what they're doing. Right? So we're now getting into acting, entertainment, and thought process. Okay? All right. So what I want you to do today is basically just start thinking. All right? Start thinking about it. Next thing is if you go on to the YouTube channel and you search through, you'll see that there's a section on thumbnailing that I've got. You can actually get it right off the, link it off the index page for the step up, step down. There's a thumbnailing link on there. If you look at that, I actually go through this assignment and thumbnail the whole thing. And that's the sequence that I'm going to animate. All right? So when we come back, I'll show you my keys and my breakdowns that I've done, and you'll be able to see my entire process.